for Samoa!
You dealt with me as a fan yesterday, Brett. Talk about what this whole fan experience is like for you.
It's interesting. I think it's to some capacity comical, in the sense that people are like, oh, you're Brett from Survivor. And I'm like, well, yeah, but I play the character of myself. And so, like, the person that I was in the show was myself. And then, after the fact, I'm like, okay, well, that was still me. But it's just the fact that it's me being viewed by millions of people. So it's interesting dynamic. I mean, I don't necessarily buy into that, nor do I derive any value or worth in people on a large scale knowing me. So.
Well, I have a friend of mine who's in love with you.
Oh, really?
So how is this lady thing going for you now? Are you getting hit by all these women?
I'm getting hit. That's why you see all the,
right.
I got makeup to cover it, but just kidding. There are, options, I guess. I don't want to sound,
right.
Whatever. I'm at this point in time, I think with the show and with my business and everything, things are pretty busy, and so I'm kind of not. I don't know if I'm necessarily in a position to seize a romantic relationship.
Now, getting into the game,
yeah.
I've interviewed everybody from Galoo because everybody from Galoo was voted off. Everybody was a huge fan of yours.
Yeah.
How does that make you feel knowing that if you would have made it to that final tribal, if that little statue wouldn't have fallen, how good does that make you feel that everybody was on your side?
Bring me back to that moment. Yeah, no, it's bittersweet. I mean, I remember watching it tonight, and in my mind, I replayed that over and over again, that last challenge essentially for me for $1 million. And I knew going into it, the way I'd played the game, I'd created strong social ties with most of the people in my tribe, I think minus probably one or two. And so I knew I was in great position there. And so at a certain point of the game, I was like, I'm doing this for you guys. And, unfortunately it didn't work out in my favor, but, so is life. And got to kind of roll with the punches.
Sure. Now, in the audience, when you were doing your confessionals, talking about how Russell was going to keep his word with you, people were laughing.
Yeah.
Did you really think he was going to stick to his word?
No, I mean, if you looked at my mannerisms, it's a face of disbelief or lack of belief. Anything Russell said in terms of gameplay, I knew he was BSing. And, I have a pretty good head on my shoulders, and I knew what he would say to me and what his motive for saying that was. And so, it was nothing I ever would have actually thought he would have taken part in. And, that's why you see me I'm just I'm just no eye contact, just looking off the distance. Yep. I was and the whole time I'm thinking, it's my last time on the beach. I better enjoy this sunset because I'm going home tonight.
So let's talk about who you voted for. I'm guessing it was Natalie.
I did. I voted for Natalie.
Explain that.
Yeah, that's a great question, because I think the TV viewers are oh, why didn't people vote for Russell, the greatest strategic player ever? Or I don't know what they say. But that's the way I think it was somewhat presented. He played an aggressive game, and the strategy is easily identified to the television audience. Natalie's strategy, similar to my own, not as easily identified to the television audience. As you saw, you probably wouldn't have expected my gameplay till you interacted with these other people. And so we played a very socially strategic game. Russell played a strategic game in other areas. In those areas which were communicated to a mass audience, whereas Natalie and myself, it's a little bit harder to communicate those points. And so, we all played the strategy that we thought would take us to the end, and ultimately that led to Natalie bringing it to the end. And she was very relational. She actually engaged with people on a human level, and in the context of a game, that's not necessary, but she actually did. And so, for that reason alone, beyond other reasons, I had to vote for her.
Now, how did you get picked for Survivor?
Yeah, that's a great question. I would quit my job to pursue a clothing company I'm working on. The shirt I'm wearing right now is one of those. I went to Las Vegas for a trade show, and a few casting associates came across my path, and they brought the idea upon, and then I was like, okay, well, we'll see. And then I ended up going going through the whole interview process and applying and all that stuff. And unbeknownst, I actually got accepted. I'm like, whoa. I was like, I had no idea. And I was so shocked that it happened, but what an opportunity it's been.
Now, were you a fan of the show before you were placed on it?
Yeah. I had been a huge fan earlier on, and so, Richard Hatch, commend the guy. Good heart. Old school though, I think my favorite survivor is Rudy. I mean, kind of a random splice, but just a good man, and I love the way he played the game. So yeah, I've been a big fan, and it was weird because I remember, you always remember. I remember watching it. I'm like, you know what, easy, got that. I was like, how can these people not figure out that silly puzzle? Sure. It's because, well, on TV they show you the puzzle before they see it, and like we don't see that when you're actually doing it. So it's an entirely different context. So I was like, yeah, I can do that. And when I got there, I was like,
Now, we didn't really get to see too much of your personality.
Yeah.
What is something that you would like the viewers to know about yourself? A trait, something quirky. What's the weirdest thing about you?
Well, I like to make people feel socially awkward.
Okay, right. Hence the question you asked at the final tribal.
Yeah.
What was that all about?
That was essentially, that was, I think, an example of actually my personality coming to life as they showed it. Basically, what I wanted to ask, and it's a very silly question. On a surface level, it's like, okay, well, why did he say that? Was it for comedic purposes? Was it for strategic purpose? What was a combination? Strategically, I wanted to give him the chance. I wanted to say, this is the way I played the game. These are kind of the things that I do important. Being able to be relational. He chose to play a game where he was claiming to have integrity and to be kind of relational. So I wanted to validate that. And so I was like, okay, based off of what we talked about, we had a lot of time to figure out what each other did and what each other liked to do. So I wanted to see what registered within himself about me, because that's only, really the litmus test I had. I couldn't really ask him about other people. It's just my own context. So I was like, okay, on a bro day, what would you do? And it was silly, but I wanted to see to what level at which he engaged me as a human being, because I felt like his strategy coincided with similarly to the way Natalie played it myself.
So have you had your bro date yet?
You know what? Sadly, no. But we're fine. I mean, no, we've I've seen him, and good guy. So we'll probably, we got to have that bromance go on,
So what's next in line for you?
Next in line, I'm going to get some food. No, I'm kidding. Sorry.
I didn't mean immediately.
Total failure.
That's fine.
No. Next up for me is I have a clothing company, which isn't really next up. It was what I had been doing, and one of the shirts I wore. The shirt I wore in the game was one of my own, and I'm actually wearing one of them after. And essentially, what the name of the company is the Monument of Our Hearts. The website is tmooh.com, and the gist of the company is a convergence between apparel and advocacy, and essentially using clothing as a means to promote healthy body image and self-esteem. What we want to do is just kind of contest what people read in magazines, what people see on their runways, to some capacity what people see in the media, and just like challenge them and say, because I think our society has kind of created a very skewed perception of beauty, right. And unfortunately people have bought into that and tried to live through that. And so you'll see this shirt, and it's from an external vantage point, it's an upside down heart, but as you look down, it's in proper perspective and it's right side up. And what that's supposed to be is a reminder that, to not worry so much about to not worry or define yourself how people are going to perceive you, but rather define yourself internally and to be the person that defines you rather than allowing things around you to define you.
Well, that's very cool.
So,
anything else you'd like to say?
Tremendous opportunity. I think, once in a lifetime experience that I am so grateful and fortunate to have, and I can't say that more than I could. It's just truly a blessing. I learned life lessons that have really impacted my life, and I think as a result, I'll be able to impact other people's lives in a manner which I couldn't. So I'm very, very humble and fortunate for the experience, and grateful for your time.
That's very cool.
And I hope you fill up your shirt with more ideas.
Oh, sure. See you at the party, I guess.